Welcome back to That's So Fringy podcast. I'm Rick.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Bethany.
So good to see you all. Hopefully you're doing well. Gosh, we have another episode. How many episodes is this now? Like almost 60?
726.
Man, we have been grinding, and we just had an interview with somebody that you're going to like. She goes by Shipwreck. You might know her from TikTok.
I've not listened to her podcast. Shame on you.
She's on Instagram, podcast, Facebook. She's everywhere. She's doing all those things.
Yep.
She talks about a lot of the stuff that we talk about. We get into some current events. We get into some of the things that are on your mind about the government and all that stuff. So you don't want to miss it, guys. What else do we got? We need you to like, share, subscribe, all those things.
Yes.
Always
we just want to say
welcome.
Thank you to our followers, to our supporters.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate that you guys take the time to listen to us rambling and share it with people, because I find the easiest way to get a message across to somebody, not that I do this to Rick often, but I do. I'll send him a podcast to listen to that is like totally against what he probably would think. I just like to sneak it in there like that.
Yeah,
like I'm not saying this, but I heard that, it's a fun thing to do to people. Just sneak up on them that way.
Yeah, they're shareable, and we're putting reels on Instagram, and you guys are sharing those, and that's awesome. And we love, interacting with you guys on Instagram. We're kicking around the idea of going over to TikTok. We don't know yet, so stay tuned. We'll see what happens.
Listen to this episode and tell us what you think.
Tell us what you think.
Yes.
We'll put it in the poll. Do you think we should go to TikTok? We'll put it in the poll. You tell us what to do.
TikTok?
You're running the show
or
out
not
there
talk.
in Fringy Land.
Oh.
So with that said, we're going to get into this episode. We hope you enjoy Shipwreck as much as we did. And with that, stay fringy, my friends. Bye. All right, you guys, welcome back to That's So Fringy podcast. We're here with our friend Shipwreck from the Shipwreck Show. You may know her from Instagram or her podcast. She's all over the place, and she's talking about a lot of the things that we like to talk about, the fringy things in the fringy spaces. We know that we're being shadow banned. We're being told we can't talk about these things, but we do it anyway, right? Because we're Americans and we're rebellious. We grew up in a generation where our parents would tell us to do something and we wouldn't do it. We'd be like, nah, we're not doing that. And now
Rick wouldn't do it.
Yeah. But now we're kind of rebelling against the government now. So Shipwreck's here to talk to us a little bit about some of the knowledge that she's figured out. And we're just going to have a conversation. So can you introduce yourself a little bit? Talk to the people about kind of what got you started doing this. What was your wake up moment?
Oh my God. Hi, I am Shipwreck. I run a podcast on YouTube, Rumble, and just about anywhere else you listen to podcasts, where we live stream once a week. We talk about current events. We talk a little conspiracy, a lot about aliens lately.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. Today we talked about Speaker McCarthy, which we can get into. That's kind of the hot topic right now.
Yes.
I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I have started on TikTok. I was making mom content on TikTok, and so that was kind of my thing. That's kind of how I started. And I made one video about the masks and how they were requiring everyone to wear masks during COVID, and I thought it was stupid. And I said so in the TikTok, and that TikTok ended up blowing up to a few 100,000 views. And I found my people. And then after that, it just really became about knowledge, making sure that we fully understood, what was going on, making sure that we took into account everybody's theories. So that you got there's 3 different levels to all of this. You've got, kind of what the mainstream's telling you and kind of what the Congress does. That's that first level, that headline level. Then you got kind of a second level. That's like your Project Blue Beams and kind of maybe the little conspiracy underneath it. And then you've got the third level, which talks about shadow government, like the Great Awakening, that whole level too. And so we try to talk about all 3 of them in context and try to figure out what's going on. And I really found my people. I wasn't big on speaking out on a whole lot of things. I didn't like to rock the boat. I was raised not to rock the boat. And when this all came to fruition, I found my people, and I got kicked off TikTok quite a bit after that. I really kind of came into the censorship after the first debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden in 2019 or whatever that was. And
yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, I got taken down. I was streaming it, and they took me down for community guidelines and deleted my account on TikTok. That was the first time it had ever happened. They deleted it off my whole device. I had to go get a whole new device. They don't do that anymore, I guess, much. But we battled with that. I lost up to like 40 accounts before I finally migrated over to YouTube. Now, we struggled mightily on YouTube, too. We still kind of struggle on YouTube. But that's why we kind of went everywhere. And I learned very quickly that the name of this game was to be everywhere. Just in case something goes down, you've got a backup, and then you've got another backup. And this is what we do. I've learned more about civics the last 5 years than I ever cared to in high school.
Yeah, you do.
And man, I found my people. I found my calling. I found my base. I found all these people, man. It's incredible. The support strangers on the internet will give to you. Like, I never knew there was this kind of kindness and acceptance out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, when you step out of your box and you look around, and you sometimes you feel like you're on an island, or that you think this way and other people may not, and you're maybe a little crazy. But then you start talking to, as you said, your people, and you start finding these groups of people that come out of the woodwork that are like, yes, you're saying everything that I've been thinking. And it really brings people together. And that's what we like that's why we started the podcast, is so we could talk to people, so that we could get this information out and bring it to the masses. And you mentioned Speaker McCarthy. I think that is such a funny story for me.
Great.
I just laugh at this guy, because they set him up as if he's a guy that is going to, be a savior. He's going to come in, and there's this back and forth fighting. It was the most times that they had to go back and forth during the nomination and the voting. Remember, that went forever, and people were watching it going, are we still going? This is insane. And now, you start, you stop doing your job in Congress, and these people that are in there right now, they're going for blood. They're not messing around anymore. They don't like the uniparty. They don't want to have anything to do with it. And it's like, finally, somebody is going to stand up and do the right thing. And I don't know what I think yet about Getz. He seems he makes me laugh, and he's a funny guy. But I've seen him do some interesting handshakes. So we'll have to see where that ends up. But what's your thoughts on McCarthy?
So, well, and as far as Matt Gaetz goes, I mean, everybody that I hate now hates him. And so I take that into an account. I never really gave Matt Gaetz too much of a thought. I think he did I think they all do a lot of grandstanding. Luna, all of them, Bobart.
Yes.
And I think he did too, an awful lot. But the one thing that I can say about Gaetz, he stood tall in the middle of all this. I mean, he was getting attacked from all sides. And this was from the very beginning. They did not want Kevin McCarthy to be Speaker of the House from the very beginning. And he advantageously voted no. Like, this was not going to happen.
Yeah.
I got to give him some props. Like I said, everybody that I hate now hates him. And so, that's kind of how we've been rolling with it. The Kevin McCarthy, I did not want Kevin McCarthy. My hard line for Speaker of the House, and really anything to do with anybody in Congress at this point, is the Ukraine aid. I'm done with it. I do not want more aid going over to Ukraine. We are in dire straits here in the United States. Our economy is just in the toilet, worse than it's ever been. Inflation is worse than it's ever been. Our borders are wide open. With these people just pouring across the border and disappearing into our country. We've got no tracking system on it. We've got no rhyme or reason for it. We've got problems. We've got real problems, and we are sending all of our defense over to Ukraine. And so, God forbid something does pop off here in the States, we're going to be defenseless because of what we're sending to Ukraine. Plus, I mean, on the conspiracy side of things, where do you post this? Just out of curiosity. Just go to Spotify?
We post to Spotify and Apple and stuff like that. So
okay, good. So we're okay.
All right.
I've done well with them. I've never had any problems with them so far. So
me neither.
We're not wholly convinced that there is a war going on in Ukraine. We watched this from the very beginning. And I remember one day, like a Tuesday, it was fear mongering about COVID, right? They still had the ticker and it was COVID. And then literally the next morning I woke up and all I saw was how Russia was invading Ukraine and we were all supposed to support Ukraine. and COVID was just over for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just done. How are you going to tell me a pandemic that wiped out tens of billions of people just over? There's no ceremony. There's no big announcement. Like, there's, nothing.
We're
we
not
just
putting
flipped.
up any plaques or doing anything. We're not erecting monuments in DC to pay homage. Those are all the things we usually do when we lose a lot of people, but they're not doing it, and they're not even paying attention to it. And this thing in Ukraine where people are putting up their flag, like on Facebook, they'll put up their flag. We support and there's pictures of McCarthy wearing the flag. He doesn't even have an American flag and the Ukraine flag. He just has the Ukraine flag on, and his little pocket square is a dumb little Ukraine flag. But we're with you. I don't think that's a real war going on.
I don't think it's a real war at all.
I think that they're doing a lot of other things there because there's a lot of nefarious stuff that goes on over there in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So
there's money laundering. We learned that when FTX, the cryptocurrency company, fell out. When that first broke, a bunch of us deep dove into that, and I did a whole show on it, and it laid out exactly how it worked. And so what was happening is we were sending military aid, financial aid to Ukraine for the war. Donations that people were making were going to this one account, and it was going to Ukraine. In Ukraine, it was being deposited into an FTX cryptocurrency account. That exact same account was then turning around and donating that money back to the political parties here in the States. And it was wide open, and you couldn't talk about it. I put it out on YouTube. YouTube took me down for 2 weeks. We put it out on TikTok. It went down. Instagram shut me down every time we tried to talk about it. Now we seems like we can because the media kind of picked it up on it after some outcry from the people because we're like, you guys should be reporting on this. And then you go to Ukraine's Snapchat, like some of these Ukrainians, their Snapchats, and they're partying, living their best life. There's no war. There is no war. And I went to TikTok, and there's all these Ukrainians, and they're on there begging for money because of this war. But they were scantily dressed. They were mostly women. They were wearing bikinis, right? Doing their, full face of makeup. And they're bawling. And these people are just sending them money. And I was fucking floored. I'm like, do not send these people money. What are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
And I was done with it after that. And I don't think there's a war in Ukraine. I don't think Russia invaded, or if they did, I think Russia came in. There's a lot of rumors about what Russia did. And a big part of that was that Ukraine. So we'd watched a documentary on Ukraine, and a few years ago, Ukraine had a coup that had taken place, and a bunch of Nazis had taken over the government. And then it was never really talked about again. And now all of a sudden, those same Nazis were sending them money, right? So the rumor is that Russia is actually coming in and taking back, and they're doing this in accordance to the citizens that have been begging for help. There's a lot of citizens of Ukraine who were speaking out and then have disappeared off of social media that were saying that Russia was actually trying to help them get out of the situation they were in. The Ukraine government was they were killing them off. They were just horrible to them. But you don't know. And now you have no idea because you can't see any news out of Russia. We can't see any real news out of Ukraine. So you really don't know what's going on. And if it's such a bad war that we need to send all our tax dollars to it, then we need a little more transparency than what we're getting. Because right now all we're getting is propaganda. And that's reused propaganda from other things. Like the building in Des Moines that collapsed, right? There was an apartment building in Des Moines and it had collapsed. And this was a few years back. And I remember when it happened. I'm in Iowa. And they used that same picture and came out and were like, look at this apartment building in Ukraine. Bitch, I know this picture.
Yeah.
First of all, that's on like the 5th and 4th Avenue of Des Moines Avenue. Like, I know where this is. And people were like, oh, get out of here. I'm over it.
It's crazy. The Ukraine thing really just stresses me out because I'm like, people are really buying into this. They're buying into that there is a war and that they still need to support it. And they get mad when you say that we shouldn't do this. And you're just like, how do you not see it? How do you not see it? And I'm a deep conspiracy theorist. So, I believe that there's a deep state. I believe that there's a shadow government. And I believe that there's a lot of nefarious child trafficking, human trafficking, things like that going on there. I mean, I've heard rumors and stories of Chernobyl where they've got underground tunnels coming out of Chernobyl and going right to the coast. Those are the type of things that, people hear and they say, there's no way. You can't even go there. But I think if you wanted to be able to traffic people, you would want everybody to stay away, right? And so you could tell them that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You would tell them that there's this big natural disaster over here at Chernobyl, so stay away for thousands of years because it's dangerous, you know, and then they can do whatever they want.
There is a conspiracy theory with Chernobyl too that a lot of people that have gone and taken the tours and stuff and had taken samples had found that things were actually flourishing like 20 to 25 times more than they do outside of Chernobyl. So they're saying that maybe the level of radiation isn't actually harmful, but it might actually be helpful. Which is that's a whole interesting rabbit hole in itself. But the trafficking, I mean, Ukraine before the war, Ukraine, I mean, our own media covered it every day, talking about how corrupt Ukraine was and how they were the human trafficking hub of the world. It was a constant thing, like this constant headlines about Ukraine.
Yeah.
And then they just flipped. They just and everyone just they gobbled it up like the masks. They just ate it up. They were like Slava Ukraine. Even some people that I had followed all through COVID, right? Because they were like anti-COVID, you know. All of a sudden, the next day they were yelling at me because I'm like, man, this ain't real. And they were like, it's okay to feel bad for the citizens of Ukraine. I'm like, listen to me. The citizens of Ukraine are living a much better life than we are right now. I can tell you that. Okay.
Yeah.
But they just fell for it all over again. And man, I was so disappointed because I thought, God, we're so much further along than that. But we weren't. Maybe we are now. I don't know.
Such a short memory, you know, as Americans, as people, we get so distracted with, you know, our TV shows and our football games and all the things we've got going on. We're so busy that, you know, we can't remember that was in the news not that long ago. And another thing that people don't realize about Ukraine is it's still part of Russia. Like
I know.
on paper, it's actually still part of Russia. So why would they invade them to take back their own property? It doesn't make any sense.
They consider when the Nazis took over back when they held the coup, they considered that the Ukrainian liberation. Yeah. That's what they report now. That's not what they were reporting then, but that's what they report now. And it's amazing how many people just fall for. I still will get people in my comments saying, "Do you have any idea what will happen if Russia takes back over Ukraine?" I'm like, my brother in Christ, Russia still owns Ukraine. I don't know how to explain this to you in any more simple terms. Okay, I could give you all the proof in the world. I could show you all the propaganda. I could take you by your hand to Snapchat and show you all the beaches of Kiev or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But you're not going to see it until you are going to see it, I guess. I don't know. I think some people just they find power in calling us crazy. Does that make sense? Like they get some kind of like they get off on it. They get some kind of superiority from it. Yeah. And I think that's really hard. And I think COVID really coddled that, right? Because we had our what did they call them? The people that worked through COVID. What would they call them?
Oh, the essential workers.
So we put all these big pharma doctors and nurses who are making TikToks in the middle of a COVID pandemic when they're so tired and so burnt out.
Dancing in the hallway.
But they can do the near. I'm like, are you, I can't.
Yeah.
I get fired up. So
that's good.
I can't, you're not going to see it. And we coddled this ideology that if you come out against the crazy people, the conspiracy theorists, you are going to be praised. You are going to be given a big account on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. You'll never be censored. You will pay you. We'll monetize you. I can't tell you how many times I've been demonetized. We'll monetize you. We'll give you all kinds of opportunities. We can look at Harry on TikTok, right? He's got a talent agent. He's making hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Yeah. We will do all of this for you. All you got to do is come out against the conspiracy theorists and follow our narrative. And people, they just got punch drunk high. It's like they sold their soul for this. Because I know to God, sweet baby Jesus, I know you don't believe this. Somewhere in here, you know the truth. But you're not going to admit it because you're getting paid. And you get off on it. And that's fine. I mean, But leave me alone then. Stop reporting my stuff.
Yeah, stop talking to me.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they get to the point where they just get angry and they get mean. But my biggest thing is like, you want me to explain all of this to you and then you don't even listen. It's like,
yeah.
And you act like I can explain it really quickly. Like, if I can explain to you that Trump is still the CIC of the United States, it's going to take me a while because you're going to have a hard time understanding if I don't go through all of the stuff. That's why I was so pleased to see Nick put out, Good Lion TV, put out that the greatest show on earth. Have you seen that yet?
I have not, no.
Yeah, it's pretty good. He lays out the whole devolution process and the executive order process and all of those different things. But there's a thing with people where they just want you to give them all the information. They don't want to do any research themselves. They just want it to be handed to them on a silver platter. And it's not going to make any sense to them until they do the work. And I think that's why a lot of people are actually waking up and paying attention now, is because they're starting to do their own work, their own research, and they're finding the things. And even if that's just listening to podcasts or watching you, they're at least doing something instead of just putting their head in the sand and being like, you guys are crazy. There's nothing going on out there. I'm like, Nothing? Are you kidding me? Nothing?
That's a strong stance to take.
Yeah.
I think
it's wild.
So when you talk about Trump so you're more of the mindset of door number 3, and I am in the same mindset of door number 3. And door number 3 would be the Great Awakening. That everything that is happening before us is being done to wake everybody up. I've not researched much on the devolution stuff, and that might be on purpose because I'd rather be able to see this and see it in that way rather than to be influenced by things that people already are not going to believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
It's easier for me to come out and point out that John Fetterman doesn't he just look funny? I mean, and but that's how I make my content. Like, exactly. And it's pretty common knowledge now that Joe Biden is not Joe Biden. I mean, I don't know who he is, right?
Yeah.
I am of the door number 3. I don't believe Joe Biden's running this country. I don't believe a lot of what we're being told is happening.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get real fired up about this, especially with the school shootings, right?
Oh, yeah.
But boy, so I'm real careful with that because I get it. And you know what? If you want to get mad at me for questioning it, that's okay. Because that means you still hold on to those morals. And I'm great
and
with
that's
that.
Great. I
am of the belief that just because something is a false flag doesn't mean that people don't get hurt.
Yep.
Right.
And people don't die.
Exactly.
Yep.
But I don't. I would like specifically the last one with the trans shooter. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting from the start because I'm like, okay, so we've seen lots of body cam footage from Paul Pelosi to other school shooters. I mean, we've seen it all. But in this one body cam footage, there's no dates, there's no timestamp, there's no what office. I mean, there's nothing. It's just body cam. And the school looked really weird. It looked really staged. It looked super staged.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are in law enforcement agreed that it didn't look real. And so we brought that up. And then later when it came out that the shooter was a trans person, and that highlighted because what did that do then? That highlighted the mental health crisis that surrounds, which was a hot topic at the time.
Yeah.
That surrounds and now you don't hear much about the school shootings anymore. But I thought, okay, this is just for lack of a better word, this is like a white hat thing.
Yeah.
This is the white hats did this. I don't know. I don't know if if children actually died. I know we don't hear much from them anymore. I know we didn't see much in terms of a couple of the dads disappeared. The whole thing was very sketch.
It was very weird.
And then it was just over. But then now we don't, and people realized that the trans ideology, there's some mental health stuff behind this that isn't necessarily like a body dysmorphia issue or a born in the wrong body issue. This is a wanting to be accepted, consistently have been bullied, seeing this as an out to be accepted. And that's what it highlighted. And I thought right then and there, but I didn't fucking say it because I just don't come out about that. People just get there.
Yeah, they get real ramped up.
And I understand. And like I said, I think that's great. I mean, you probably have a soul. I'm also of the belief that not everybody on this earth has a soul and a purpose. I know that pisses people off, but I don't. I have met many NPCs in my time, and then people be real. They just they don't have any idea, and they're just going to follow the next thing. And so what we need to do as people with purpose and people with souls is to be somebody that they can follow and they can trust. And so that, you know, but that also means not coming out and saying, hey, I don't think this school shooting, you know, and happened and pissing them off and driving them further away. So it's a touchy thing.
You really do
Door
have
number
to
3.
reach people with compassion. You know, you have to come out. And I always say that I know that these people are deceived. That's why I don't think that they want a civil war. They don't want any distress in the streets. They don't want any of that because they know that, you know, in that gunfight, player number A and player number B are both deceived. They're fighting each other over something that they've both been lied to about. And so when you get to that level where now we're fighting each other because of our beliefs in what's real, that's exactly where they want us to be. They want us to be, you know, distracted, to be divided, and we get divided. And then we have all of these people walking around that don't have a soul, as you said, and they're almost like agents in the Matrix, you know, just like
they're just lost,
just stirring stuff up.
Yep. So it is easier to convince people of a lie than it is to convince them that they've been lied to. And I try to keep that in mind every time I go outside of my like news content. So I made a video about Christianity. Somebody had asked me about whether or not I was a Christian, and I don't claim Christianity anymore. I used to, but I don't anymore because I have seen the Christians get real mean to people, and that's just not what I want to be a part of. And I just then they start bringing up the Bible and stuff. When you start reading the Bible, then you start researching like the mud floods, and I believe there are things in the Bible that happened. I do, and I think there's legitimacy to the Bible, probably to a lot of it. But I do think that it has been warped and used to push different agendas, just depending on what religion and what church you're a part of. And so it's really hard for me to come out here and judge you using Bible verses that could have very well been miswritten by man. And, you know, but you try to tell people that. And so they won't accept it. It's so hard for people to buy into the fact that they have been lied to. And COVID too, man. There's still people out there just wearing their masks, and it's like, my God.
Oh yeah, I see them.
They
all the
came
time.
out and said they didn't work. Like, it's not going to do anything, and they just they don't believe it, and that's okay. You know what? That's okay. Put your mask on and just come with me then, because we're not going that way anymore. We're not going. You know, we're not going to go to the New World Order. We're going to come over here to the Great Awakening. We are not going to a 30-minute city. Okay, we're going to 15-minute city, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, and that, you know, when you speak about Christianity, there's a lot of Christians out there that are really waking up to the fact that everything that they've learned in church, or the things that they've been told by their pastors or their priests or whatever, you know, is a lie. And that, you know, there was a book I read a long time ago by Frank Viola. It's called Pagan Christianity. And it's all about how we have adopted a lot of the paganism and brought it back into religion. When Jesus was talking, he was saying, we're not about religion. We're about helping people and loving people. And they brought everything back to religion, to where you had to go to the buildings and you had to go inside, and the rich people got to sit in the box seats, and the poor people got to sit on the floor, and you had to pay for your seats, and all these different things that ended up, you know, just causing, again, division. Like you said, it pushes these agendas to where even Christians now are like, you know, I believe in Jesus, but all this other stuff is whack. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with it, because you get so manipulated, you get so run down. You know, you have children that need help from their youth groups, and their youth groups are garbage. They're not teaching them anything about life. They're just playing games all the time. And there's things that our children need to know. I was talking to my coworker today about, you know, how we need to help our children grow up. We have to help them to know all of this information, because they're not getting it in school. You know, like you said, you're learning civics, and all of that stuff on your own time, because you finally realize that I'm going to have to do this work myself, you know?
Right.
And we as parents need to start teaching our children that you're going to have to do this work. You're going to have to put in the hours. You're not smart until you put in the time. You know, and I think we just call kids smart all the time. Oh, that kid's smart. It's like, well, he actually put in more work than that kid who we call dumb. It's just time, energy, effort is the thing that makes things happen around this planet or this realm. I'm a flat earther anyway.
I'm a whatever. When it comes, I've researched flat Earth and I've researched round Earth, and I don't believe that we went to the moon at all. I don't know that the moon is even real, but it's sure pretty to look at. I do believe it fucks with your cycle. I do believe that. Yep. But I don't know about flat Earth. But I'm open to the theory 100%. Sure. I'm open. I am literally open to anybody's theory, and I will never condemn you for believing something, right? I think that's ridiculous. And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids. Like, just because somebody thinks something differently than you, that doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make you right. It just makes it their opinion. And that's okay. It's everybody's allowed to have their opinion. But to go back to what you were talking about, and we were talking about, you're talking about the kids in school. This is, again, kind of why I stay behind door number 3, that this is kind of the Great Awakening, right? COVID did a lot of terrible things, shut down businesses and did all these things. And people, you know, they died or whatever. I don't know that COVID was even real either. But it did all these things. But you know what else it did? It got parents to snap the fuck up out of it and realize what was going on in their kids' school. Okay, so it did that. And all of a sudden, kids were being homeschooled and parents realized that this worked a lot better for their lives, and they continued it. A lot of them did. It made adults realize that their 9 to 5 doesn't have to be 9 to 5. They can work from home and their company can make it work. So this grinding, 40, 50, 60-hour work week that they were being forced to put in some cubicle, like they didn't have to do that. They could work from home, be just as efficient, and be still available to their family. And I know a lot of companies adapted the work from home process forever. It taught people about big pharma, not only questioning like the COVID vaccination, but they started questioning all vaccinations. All of them. Yeah. And then they started questioning all of big pharma, right? Yep. I learned more about Dr. Fauci. I didn't even know who this dude was. I mean, I know him now, right? The beagles, the AIDS, the babies. Like, I know everything about Dr. Fauci. You're going to stand there and tell me to take a vaccine, Frodo. Sit down, right? Yeah. I think COVID really kicked things off with the Great Awakening. And I think that as we're continuing on, I think this was supposed to be a new world order. I think if Hillary Clinton would have won, we would be in a new world order. I think we'd still be under COVID lockdowns now, still to this day. I think that, and it would have just continued on the way that it was written, because it was written out that this was the plan. But it didn't. Trump won, and everybody just fucking lost their minds. Whether you loved him or you hated him, it didn't matter. It snapped you out of things. And so I don't believe that we're headed to a new world order. I don't believe in a lot of what's going on. I am of the belief, too, of that a lot of the people that we're seeing are not with us anymore. I am of that belief. I know people really get kind of handy about that. But you know what? You're going to stand there and tell me that is Hillary Clinton. Like that. It looks nothing like her.
She somehow got 6 inches shorter.
Right. She collapsed outside of the office. Have you guys seen that video? Where they kind of forced her, and then 15 minutes later, they didn't take her. They didn't take her to the hospital. They didn't take her home. They didn't take her to a doctor. They took her to her daughter's house, which was 5 blocks down. And she walked out like nothing happened, but she's 6 inches shorter. She's a little wider too in that video.
Little wider.
Okay. Obama, same thing. I think the Obamas are gone. And but what I think you're seeing is you're seeing the people have to be shown, right? And people can't just be shown. And I said this about COVID too, when I came out about this theory that COVID, people had to be shown, and it had to affect their lives. Because if it didn't affect your life, if you weren't paying attention, you were going to continue not paying attention. If it didn't affect your life in a major way, you weren't going to wake up. And COVID affected everybody's lives in a major way. Whether you believed it or you didn't, it didn't matter. You couldn't go to work. You had to walk one way down the grocery store, walk one way up. You could only shop at certain hours. The whole thing was freaking ridiculous. Yeah. And some people thought it was necessary. I am of the belief that it was ridiculous. Yeah. But because it affected them so much, it like mass awakened people by the thousands. And then as we just continue on with the ridiculousness, the war in Ukraine, right? That narrative fell apart in a week. It took a week. And that was with censorship and social media and all the crap. But it took a week for people to be like, nah, sis, stop sending money over there. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
Everything gets more and more and more and more and more ridiculous.
Yeah, it really does.
So we're just waiting. And so what comes next after this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
what do you think about Trump as speaker?
Fuck yeah, let's do it. Content for days,
not,
man.
Right?
Content for days. I don't care.
Yeah.
Does it make a difference? Probably not.
Yeah,
but let's do it. I want to see Nancy Pelosi. She's a bane in my existence, right? I would love to see her face when they have to announce him as speaker.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Trump is going to save us. I don't think that was ever the point. I've researched the history of Trump and Tesla and his uncle and Barron. I have the book. I read the book. I think there's some legitimacy to that. I do. I believe in time travel. I think that the Marvel movies, specifically the one with the wizard, I can't think of his name, Doctor Strange.
Yep.
I think that's foretelling of the technology that we have. I believe in a lot of that. I do. I believe in timelines. But I don't think the point was to have Donald Trump come and save us. I think the point was to wake us up so that we could start saving ourselves.
Yep.
And regardless of what happens in Washington or on Capitol Hill, regardless of what happens with your government as a whole, if you're good with yourself, then the rest of it really at the end of the day is just noise. And they really focus on mental health, right? The whole idea of a new world order and the whole idea of a lot of this is to kill your mental health, to beat you down. But if you can keep that leveled up, man, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be just fine. I promise. I promise. Meditate, pray, eat good food. You'll be fine. Dang.
I think it is. I think it's going to be good. Kristen, throw some questions at her. I know you got some questions going over there.
Sorry. Hi. Yes, I'm a chatty Cathy.
I love it.
So
I think we're on the same page about most of this stuff. The thing that frustrates me the most is this just polarization, I guess, where you have to pick a side. You either are a Republican or you're a Democrat. You are either a Christian or not a Christian. There is no like, let's just sit down and work it out kind of a thing, which I feel like it's gotten lost through the COVID thing, through the Ukraine thing, through all of that. It's like, you don't always have to pick a side. You just have to have your morals and stand on your morals, like, I don't know. That's the most frustrating part for me. And the isolation, you put people in their houses, you take away their job, you take away their workplace, you take away all this stuff, and they're sitting there feeling like, I think maybe some of the stuff is crap, but I don't really know. And then so this explosion of podcasts and having people come on that have this kind of content is awesome. But I did just see a thing in Canada that they're going to start regulating the podcasts.
They already did.
They passed it earlier this year, and you're going to have to register your podcast with the National Center. And then in some cases, if you have enough listens, you're going to have to like fill out a bunch of forms, and it's just more.
Skip.
Well, that's because they took all of Canadians' guns away. Yeah, and you know what? You can laugh, and maybe if people think it's a joke, but it's fucking not. They took their guns away, and Canadians gave them up willingly. I'm sorry to my friends up in the north, man, but we told you. Keep yourself strapped.
Well, in Australia, we just interviewed Drew Misson from Missing the Point podcast, and they don't have. You have to have a reason to have a gun there. So you have to have like for sport or whatever.
Really?
Hunting
in Australia?
Or sport. In Australia,
man,
they said so. They had a voluntary turn in your gun program, and people did it. It's like,
man, Australia would be the one place I would probably stay strapped constantly. Have you seen some of the spiders out there? God dang.
Oh
yeah.
God dang.
Spiders,
the
snakes.
Mosquitoes. No,
it's a dangerous place.
That's
kangaroos, why those people are hard over there. They're fighting those kangaroos.
Maybe they don't
believe
need
the history of Australia that they were. It was where they sent all the prisoners. I mean, come on, it's
no. I think, but really, and the bottom line is just that. They tried to do the programs here too. Do you remember? They tried to do the turning. They were giving out gift cards, just like they were doing for the jabs, right?
Yeah.
You get a gift card, get
Krispy
yourself a jab. Yeah, Krispy Kreme. I think here they did Starbucks for the middle schoolers.
Oh yeah.
We left our school after that, we were done. Yeah,
I bet.
they set up
Dang.
the year after COVID ended, the kids went back to school. They set up a vaccine clinic in my kids' middle school, and they were giving away Starbucks cards for the kids to get vaccines. Now, the parents had to sign off on it, but how easy is it for you to forge your signature, right?
Yep.
You don't think about those things
Crystal
when you're
was
a
the
freshman.
queen of that.
Yeah.
I was.
If anybody
too.
needs a signature forged, I'm your person.
Yeah.
You bet. They didn't check it, and then they just jabbed these kids in the gym.
Oh,
There was a doctor's
no.
They
office
did have
2
some of
blocks
those here.
away. They could have done it at the doctor's office. They didn't have a doctor present, nothing.
At the middle
And then
school?
we found out later they got a huge bump for doing it financially. And then we left. So I pulled my kids out after that. We homeschooled for a year, and then we actually moved to this town, which is very small. The school itself is very small. Didn't really do any of the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
They just don't exist in that realm. But then I found out the superintendent from our old school resigned quickly after that. And because parents, they fucking hot. And they should be. And
it's good to see that. It's good to see that they're
is.
finally doing something. They're paying attention to their children's education and what they're doing in there.
Yeah.
And what they're doing in
Exactly.
sex ed and what kind of weird
Bethany,
questions they're asking them.
Tell your story about your mother-in-law. She's not working at our school anymore.
Oh, yeah. She was a volunteer aide, whatever you want to call it, at the elementary school here in town. Small town, very small town that we live in. But they have tampon and pad dispensers in the boys' bathroom
This year. They
this
just
year.
started it.
And in some of the bathrooms, there's litter boxes. For the,
no,
for the
you're one of
cats.
those schools?
Oh, if they
And
identify
where-
as cats, yeah.
We're a
What state are you in?
small
Just out of curiosity.
We're in
Oregon.
Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
Ukraine flags around here.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah,
we're not
we're
in
in Iowa.
Portland.
Yeah.
I know, but
We're in
We're in
like
Iowa,
rural
man. We're-
Oregon.
Yeah,
we
it's
don't
a different
identify as
world over
Oregon.
here for sure.
So what did you go to the
My-
school then? I would have just
No, my-
raised hell. I would have burned it down.
Well, she quit her job.
Yeah.
She put in her notice
she
that
did.
day. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
like, I'm done. I'm not doing
Well,
this.
she also
That's-
gets like she was getting beat up by this kindergartner because each year there's more and more autism. There's more and more behavioral issues. Like last year, there was a kid who was obsessed with his dad's guns, a 5-year-old in their son's class, like obsessed with just like angry, weird.
Mhm.
And it's
Now,
more
do
and
you
more
think that's
each
a
year.
parent thing or something
Oh,
in the
yeah.
water?
I do.
Yes.
You think it's a
I
parent
think
thing?
it's everything. I
It's
think they're
gotta be.
coming at these kids from every angle.
Yeah.
I think it's vaccines. I think
Vaccines,
it's food.
heavy
I think
metals in the
it's-
brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it.
God, kids like
Yeah, we've
that.
actually
kids
pulled.
like
So
that
we have
just-
a kindergartner last year that we pulled out of public school because of various things. But the main reason was they take all the kids that are, in special ed, whatever you want to call it, and they put them all in one classroom. So you've got the kids that have behavioral issues in the same classroom as the kids that just maybe have some learning disabilities, like some autism, some dyslexia, whatever. But behaviorally, they're fine.
Mhm.
Well, you mash them all together, and our son comes home and he's like, so and so kicked my teacher, and that's all he can talk about because now he's upset. So
Right.
it was just so traumatizing for him that we got to the point where we're like, I think we'll just keep him home. So
Yeah, that's
It-
what I
it-
was saying. Like if that ever, I mean, we made that decision too. I pulled my kids over masks. I didn't want them wearing
Mhm.
masks, and I didn't want to be a part of a school that felt like it was okay to give kids shots in the gym. That just sat
Yeah.
wrong with me. I was so surprised how many parents were just fine with it. They kicked me out of their Facebook group. Bunch of fuckers.
Oh,
And I'm
man.
like, hey, and they
You
were
got
like, no,
booted.
we feel like you just stir the pot too much. I'm like, well, fine, I'm gonna go to TikTok
Canceled.
then. Yeah,
I
they
do.
did. They
There you
canceled
go.
me out of my town. I said
I
fine, and I
do.
left.
I do stir
But-
the pot, and I'm going to go
I
stir it
do.
somewhere else.
That's what I told him. I said, fine, I'll just leave then. Enjoy your vaccine, you bunch of zombies.
Yeah,
I am-
exactly.
Well,
But-
it woke us up to the whole vaccine, because then obviously we have a son that's autistic. And so
Mhm.
with that, I have a lot of guilt, we do collectively, me
You
and
shouldn't.
Jack, about
We
all the
didn't know.
vaccines
I
we
didn't
gave him,
know.
but we didn't know what we didn't know.
No,
and
didn't
so, how do we walk that back? Well, we don't give him any more vaccines. Obviously, we try to detox him. We're doing everything we can, but
Right.
like you said earlier, I liked that point that you made of people don't wake up until something touches them personally, until
Mhm.
something affects them personally. And that's what it's going to take is these podcasts and these things going out where it was one of your reels that I saw on Instagram that I don't remember what you were even talking about, but I was like, yes, this lady knows what she's talking about. But that's all it takes is like a little, 2-minute, 1-minute reel, and that can be the thing that wakes people up.
Yeah.
I can't post to Instagram anymore right now till January.
Really?
Oh, what's that?
We figured. We thought you might be in jail.
No, they put me on a 90-day suspension. So they're like, they're not gonna post my account to any non-followers. And I fought it out on Instagram for the last 5 years, right? I bashed a lot on TikTok. I've lost many accounts on TikTok, but the one thing I could say about TikTok is it's usually 2 or 3 days, and then I'm right back at it. And that's been every single time. Yeah. Instagram, they don't fuck around. It's 90 days. I was banned for like a year. They had me shadow banned. And I'm like, this last time, it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm not even going to post here anymore. Like, for now, Instagram doesn't pay me. My monetization always gets taken away after 24 hours. And I'm like, I'm just not, Meta can kick rocks. I'm over Meta right now. So I'm glad you saw it, but follow me on TikTok. Because TikTok's a whole conspiracy theory of its own. And I think that TikTok is like a white hat. You want to go with the white hat, I'm looking this way, a white hat operation. And I know a lot, and the only reason I think that's because
explain more.
So they want to ban it, right? All of our Congress unit. That's the one thing they all can agree on is that we need to ban TikTok because of the security reasons to China, right? But we all knew that when Donald Trump was president and threatening the same thing, he had cut a deal with ByteDance to chop off our part of the information, the Americans, and it's sent to TikTok landings here in the States. All the information. So we knew it was all bullshit because it's still, and the guy went to Congress, he laid it, TikTok's CEO went to Congress, laid it all out and said, all of the information is here in the States and you just can't get it. They just won't give it to him. They've been requesting it. They won't give it to him because of privacy policies with TikTok.
Yeah.
And so anytime they want to unanimously do something, it's usually not good for us. One. Two, when I get suspended or I get shadow banned on Instagram, like I said, it's 90 days, 120 days. My last one was like a year long. I didn't gain a follower in a year. And
wow.
Nobody saw my stuff. I had no interaction. I'm blurring out here. I had no like interactions on my videos, nothing. And then one day it just lifted, right? And it was good for a couple months and then it would happen again. And none of my stuff would go out. It took me 2 weeks on Facebook and I was done. But TikTok, my video about Pizzagate, which would get taken down on Instagram, get taken down on YouTube, get taken down on Facebook. My video that explained all of Pizzagate, brought up all the documents, went through all the John Podesta stuff, sat at almost 500,000 views before it got taken down the first time. And I appealed it and I got it back. And then it went right back. It sat at 800,000 views. That was on a different account. But the information on TikTok can get out so fast, and you can download it to your phone and you have it forever. You can do whatever you want with it. And I think that's what their main concern about TikTok is. TikTok united people during COVID. TikTok woke up so many people during the COVID mandates because people used TikTok to explain what was going on, to show people what was happening. People didn't have to rely on the media anymore because people from TikTok in that area were already reporting on it. I think they're threatened by TikTok, and TikTok won't sell any of our information to our own government because they're busy obviously using it to make their own money.
Sure.
But that's why they want to ban it so bad, because they are afraid of TikTok's lack of censorship on our content about them. And it's crazy. It's just insane. They can't own them. And that's why I think there's a conspiracy behind it. I think TikTok
well, and it's waking the youth up. I think go ahead. I was just saying, I think it's waking the youth up, and it's giving them the ability to learn about things that they would have never learned about, or their parents aren't talking to them about. And they get propagandized by TV and by school and by everything else. And so where do they get real information at? Well, a lot of them are finding it on TikTok. And I know my children are on TikTok, and they scroll through there and they find all kinds of things, and they show me, did you see this? This is crazy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that, but it's good that you're seeing it. I'm glad that it's coming to you, because they need to know. They need to know that
I'm glad that they're coming to you with it. That's a key to good parenting right there, is that they come to you and, hey, have you seen this? A lot of kids, I can remember being little and not showing my parents anything, not talking to my parents about anything, because my kids do the same thing. They came with the emergency alert, right? My youngest fell into that algorithm. He's like, is it Russia? What's going to happen? So he came up and he talked to me about it. And I said, nothing's going to happen. And he's like, is it zombies? And I said, it's not. But they are in that algorithm, and they can learn about all kinds of things, all kinds. My kids know all about the Titanic conspiracies. That shit they're never going to learn at school. They know all about it. They can tell me about the sister ship. They can tell me about the people that were on it, that were millionaires, and they were stopping certain things from it. Like, they can tell me the whole story.
Yeah.
And I think I do. I think TikTok, the whole TikTok rage was done on purpose and was really took off during COVID on purpose for almost the sole purpose of waking people up to what is going on around them, and allowing people to unite over information and unite and find each other. Because that's the one thing the government doesn't want, right? They do not want people united. They do not want people getting along. But people were able to find their people on TikTok. And on top of that, TikTok also took over the entertainment industry. So we all know Hollywood was on strike. You may not have known. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. Nobody gave a shit because
I think a lot of people are over that. Yeah,
they are. And a lot of these kids, we give Gen Z a lot of shit. I give Gen Z a lot of shit for being just dunderheads. But Gen Z is one of the most creative generations I have ever seen. These kids with their phone that can make these amazing TikToks, I'm blown away. And I will watch them all day long before I watch another movie in the cinema, before I watch Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson do another damn thing, right? Yeah. People, the TikTok influencers are taking over the entertainment industry. Hollywood's dying, right? The pedophiles are coming out.
I think so too.
Like, they're all exploding. And Hollywood's dying. I think a lot of those people are dead already too, but that's for another day. I think that's, and we look at what happened with Oprah, right? I ain't seen TikTok unite or social media unite over anything like it did over Oprah. Man, I saw people from the left. I saw people from the right. I saw Gen Z who was like, can't afford their cat litter boxes. And they're pissed off at Oprah, who's out here begging them for money. But TikTok gives people that voice that they didn't have before.
That's true.
I do.
I never thought of it that way.
Oh, yeah. I know they say a lot, and people get real frustrated with TikTok and the censorship, right? I do too. Yeah. But if you can make it work, and you can still get your message out there, and it'll get out there hell of a lot farther than it will on Instagram. Why do you think it takes Instagram? It's pretty rare to go viral on Instagram within the first day or so. I mean, I've had videos, they'll hit, 100, 200, 300,000 views, but it happens like weeks later. It's so weird.
Yeah.
As we're TikTok, it's in that first hour, whew, your video's gone. Everybody going to know about John Podesta now. Like, everybody. It's crazy. I do. I think TikTok, TikTok was a part of the Great Awakening process, and I think it was planned out that way.
I agree. And I think that there's so much out there that people don't realize is, that it is a process, that you have to learn this stuff slowly, because as we talked about at the top of the show, there's a lot. And I'm not just going to be able to come up and tell you everything that's going on in the world, conspiracy, like you said, on all three levels. There's no way that we can get all that information to all these people without starting podcasts and doing TikToks and all those things, and being able to explain it in a way that people understand. Like you said, you find your people and you fit in where you fit in, and you guys talk about all of the things that are crazy in the world. And, I'm always talking to my coworkers and everybody that I run into, because I don't have a filter. And I just say whatever I want to say. I wear crazy T-shirts that my wife is like, "Are we serious? That's the one that we're wearing today?" Okay,
it's a wedding.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe just not here.
It's just a wild, man. But that's what's gotten the attention of all of the people. It's gotten the attention of everybody in our sphere of influence. The people that we're around is us just being loud and talking and not caring and not having a fear. We've been inundated with fear for so long that it's almost like our default setting, where that's, we always just fall to fear. And, for people that are awake, they don't really fear much anymore because they're like, oh,
No.
these guys are nothing. These guys are nothing, and you start to think about celebrities as, oh my gosh, real people that are real monsters, actually. And that, why did we start following these people in the first place? Why do we care that much about The Rock? Because he's in movies? Like, why is it that we know his workout regimen and his, we know he doesn't eat candy and all of these things that people say about The Rock? And why do you know all of that? Well, TMZ's pushing it down your throat. All of these celebrity shows, celebrity magazines, all of this is who they want you to worship, because this is the big distraction. That's why it was created. The Hollywood. They make programs. That's what they do, to program your mind. So
television.
We're so grateful. We're so grateful that you were able to come on tonight. And we know that,
yeah, you bet.
You've got a lot going on, and it's just awesome to be able to talk to people like you, like-minded people, where we can just have a conversation and rant here and there and just have fun and get this information to as many people as possible. So with that, did you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I do. I have one final thought, and kind of to wrap all of this up. You have to heal like yourself in order to really start the awakening process. And that takes a lot, right? You start with politics, but then you start to realize they're all kind of the same. So you stop projecting through politics, and then it forces you to kind of take a long look at yourself. And there is a real healing process to this too. I think people will more people believe a lot of the conspiracy theories because they've been through their own trauma. It's easy for people to believe who have been through their own trauma to believe that horrible, mean, evil people exist and trafficking exists and these awful things because they've experienced it at some level. And so if you are still kind of the belief that none of that, you really have to start the process of healing yourself to fully understand what exactly is happening. And those are kind of my final thoughts. So meditate.
Yeah.
Go walk in some grass. Damn.
You have to,
with your shoes
Take off your shoes.
Not your shoes.
Well, this has been fun. Guys out there in the audience, Shipwreck, she's all over the place. You've seen her. You know that she's awesome. We don't have to tell you. Follow her on all the places. Listen to all of her podcasts because she's dropping bombs, guys. She's dropping knowledge. So we hope you had fun with that episode. And until next time, stay fringy, my friends.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.